Safety and Fire by Mother Fluffer. Chapter 13. Izuku was awoken softly. He blinked tiredly up at Rei. She smiled softly at him, petting his head lovingly. "Hello, sweetheart. Dinner's ready, so time to wake up a little," she told him. Izuku yawned and nodded. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, one arm still wrapped around his Vulpix. "Zuku!" Shoto hugged him. Izuku giggled and hugged him back. Fuyumi and Natsuo ruffled his hair as they passed. "You wouldn't believe the fuss my class threw when I got back. They all wanted to know who the small green bean with my dad was." Toya grinned as Izuku sat down. He looked from the omuri rice before him to the oldest child. "What did they say?" he asked curiously. "Well, told them it was a secret, but added, 'You are totally my favorite sibling,'" Toya replied. Izuku laughed as the other three complained. "Don't you three go acting like he isn't your favorite either," Rei told them with a smile. "Enjoy your dinner," she smiled. "I will." He nodded. "So, what did you do after leaving UA, Zuku?" Toya asked. Izuku happily told everyone about his day, Enji and Toya both listening with smiles as Shoto would ask questions, and Izuku proudly showed off all the autographs he had gotten. After dinner, the family was cleaning up. Izuku would normally want to help, but Rei and Enji watched as he sat on the wooden porch outside, watching the sky. "Go check on him," Rei whispered to Enji, who nodded, putting down the dish he was drying to join the child. "What's on your mind, kiddo?" Enji sat next to Izuku on the porch. Izuku held his teddy close, blushing slightly. Can I ask to be called something else that's not my real name?" Izuku asked. "Of course, whatever you want," Enji nodded. Izuku blushed and smiled. "Can you call me Sprout?" He looked up at the hero. "Sprout? The name Burnin gave you?" Enji smiled softly. Izuku nodded. He glanced down at his feet. "Is that weird?" he asked. "No, not at all. It suits you." Enji ruffled his hair. "Want me to tell the others?" Izuku nodded. The rest of the Todorokis were happy to take to calling him Sprout. Fuyumi gave him a hug, commenting how brave he was to ask them and how she was proud of how brave he had become. Rei shook her head fondly at her children. "Well then, Sprout," Rei sighed. Izuku squealed and giggled as Rei lifted him up. "You know, sprouts need sunlight to grow, so it's definitely well past your bedtime." Rei kissed his cheek. She tucked the two youngest boys into their beds, Izuku and Shoto giggling as Rei kissed their foreheads. "And I mean sleep, you little monsters, and tomorrow we'll have a lot more fun, okay?" "Okay, night, Mom," Shoto nodded. "Night-night." Izuku blushed happily. He really enjoyed himself, didn't he? Rei smiled as she and Enji sat on the porch, the house silent with all the kids sleeping. He did. The sidekicks loved him. I think Lunch Rush might have a favorite kid when Izuku gets into UA. The man doesn't get enough recognition, and there was Izuku, nervous and excited to see him. Enji chuckled. Rei was up early that morning. Enji had complained lightly, but she knew it was just his sleep-addled mind wanting to have something to hug. Who would have guessed the fiery number 2 hero was just a giant teddy bear? She smiled fondly as she put on her apron as she stood in the kitchen. Now, it was a matter of deciding breakfast. They had a big day ahead, plans to fulfill Izuku's childhood that he likely had been forced to miss. She stopped and looked to the hallway to see Izuku peeking in. "Up with the sunshine sprout?" Rei asked softly as Izuku waddled over to her, draped in a blanket. He smiled as he nodded, cuddling into her side. "You really are a little sprout. I feel you are going to be one tall young man." Rei kissed his forehead. "So, considering you and I are the only ones awake, how would you like to help me with breakfast?" "What are we having?" Izuku put the blanket on one of the chairs and stood next to her on a stool she set up. "Well, maybe you can help me choose. It was between pancakes and fruit, or should I make miso soup, fish with some rice? We're going to have a busy day of fun ahead, so what do you think?" Rei looked down at him. Izuku pouted thoughtfully. "I kinda want to have both," he mumbled. "Then, how about pancakes now? I can make miso soup tonight, and you can be my little co-chef today." Rei smiled. Izuku nodded. "Great. So, from the drawer by the fridge, can you get me a whisk and ladle? And from the cupboard under it, there should be a big plastic bowl. We need them for the pancakes." "Okay," Izuku nodded and hopped over to look as Rei pulled out the ingredients. Izuku brought the things over and stood back on the stool. "So, what do we do first?" "First, we need to make the batter," Rei told him. She walked him through the steps, and while she put the ingredients in the bowl, Izuku got to mix it. Izuku giggled as he watched the first pancakes cooking in the pan. Rei ruffled his hair. "You were a great help. This bit is a little dangerous, so leave it to me, okay?" Rei said. Izuku nodded. "Oh, can I wake everyone for breakfast?" Izuku asked. "Sure thing. Warning though, Natsu may take more than one time to wake up." Rei smiled. Izuku giggled and ran off. She let out a small breath and turned to the pancakes. Today was already looking good. Izuku had woken all the siblings first. Fuyumi and Toya had given him a tired hug. Natsuo grumbled at first, but when Izuku tried to wake him a second time, Natsuo had started tickling him, and it took a few minutes before he went to wake Shoto. He finally found himself peeking into Rei and Enji's room, the pro hero still fast asleep. Izuku snuck in and to the side of the bed and lightly poked his shoulder. Enji grumbled but rolled over to see who it was. Izuku smiled softly, seeing him awake. "Morning," Izuku greeted. "Morning, Sprout," he yawned and sat up. "Morning already?" "Yep, Rei and I made breakfast," Izuku told him. "Oh, what did you make?" he asked. "Pancakes. I mixed it all together," Izuku smiled. "Oh, I can't wait. Tell Rei I'll be out in a moment," Enji chuckled. "Okay." Izuku nodded and hurried out. Enji watched him go with a smile. He yawned. Time to start the day. Hey everyone, it's Tempe again. That's the end of this chapter, and if you liked this, please follow the links in the description to go to the original work and support the author. If you liked this, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If you have any suggestions for fanfictions or how to make this better, please leave a comment, or you can send the suggestion to my email in the description. Alright, thanks guys. See you next time. Bye.